Hi, I'm Jack Reeder with Future Pastimes, and I'm a designer on the expansions for the Dune board game. And I wanted to do a video to talk a little bit about the Emperor and who gets paid for what and who gets free stuff. And it really boils down to some of the wording that's on here has caused some confusion for some players, especially players looking to exploit loopholes in certain wordings. And so let's take a look at what the Emperor does, and then we'll look at the alliance ability, and then we'll talk about how the payments work and helping each other pay for stuff when you have an ally. So the Emperor's bidding advantage is whenever any other faction pays spice for a treachery card, they pay it to you instead of the spice bank. You may not discount the price of treachery cards. The full price must be paid. Now, the way this is intended to work is when any faction other than the Emperor is buying a treachery card for themselves, when they pay the spice for that card, it goes to the Emperor. So that is how it is supposed to work. Now let's look at the alliance advantage, and then we'll get into loopholes and how other things work. So the alliance advantage, first of all, you may share your great wealth with your allies, as well as paying spice directly to the bank for the revival of up to 3 extra forces. It's the sharing of the wealth that's important. That means that the Emperor can give their spice to their ally, and they're giving them the spice. They're not bribing them the spice. And you can't bribe your ally anyway. But the thing about bribes is that bribes are not collected immediately. That means if you do bribe somebody, that spice stays in front of your shield and you collect it at the Mentat pause, which means you will have access to spending that spice in the next game turn. You don't get it right away. But with the Emperor's ally, the ally does get that spice right away. That means that if the ally wants to buy a card, the Emperor could say, here's the spice for that card. Now keep in mind, when anybody else buys a treachery card for themselves, they give the spice to the Emperor. That means that if I'm the Emperor and you are my ally, and you are bidding 10 spice for a card, if I, as the Emperor, have 10 spice, I can say, here's 10 spice, I'm giving it to you. Now you must pay for that card, and you give that spice back to me. That means that essentially, if the Emperor has the spice, the ally can bid up to the amount that the Emperor has, and they're basically getting that card for free. Here's where the confusion comes in. When the Emperor is buying a card, the ally can technically help pay for that card. But what happens to that spice? Well, anytime the Emperor buys a card, they pay the spice bank. And that means that if the ally helps the Emperor to pay for that card, that spice goes to the spice bank. It doesn't matter who it's coming from. If it's coming from the Emperor or the ally, if it's half from the Emperor, half from the ally, or the ally is paying 1 spice, the Emperor is paying 9, or vice versa, it all 10 of that spice, however much they're spending, goes to the spice bank. It doesn't go to the Emperor. And the reason that there feels like there's a loophole is because of the way this is worded. It says whenever any other faction pays spice for a treachery card. So you could say, well, look, technically, if I'm the ally and I'm paying 9 spice for the Emperor's treachery card, shouldn't that spice go to the Emperor? And the answer is no. It's absurd, and it shouldn't work that way, and it doesn't work that way. Because essentially, because of the alliance ability, the Emperor could say, hey, I'm bidding 10 spice for this card, and then I'm going to give 10 spice to my ally, and they're going to help me to pay for that card and then give me the spice back. And that is not how it's supposed to work. It's not how it does work. If you are playing it that way, you're playing it wrong. You can call it a house rule and do what you want, but it is not official. There's no FAQ that says, yes, that is how it's supposed to work. It is not how it's supposed to work. That is not how it does work. So, just to clear it up so that you are 100% on board with how it is supposed to work and how you should be playing it, anytime the Emperor buys a card for himself, whoever is spending spice for that card is giving it to the spice bank. Now, if the ally is buying a card for themselves, the Emperor can give them the spice, which they get back. And if that ally is needing to pay for shipment, the Emperor can pay for the shipment. And if the ally needs spice to spice dial, the Emperor can give them spice for that. If the ally needs spice for revival, the Emperor can give them spice in addition to paying for more revivals beyond the 3 limit, which is part of their alliance advantage. And since we're talking about it, let's go ahead and bring in the Spacing Guild. Just want to make sure that people understand that the Emperor and the Spacing Guild, they're not the same. Now, the thing with the Spacing Guild is that they can give guild rates to their ally, and when their ally pays, they pay the guild. But if the guild is helping to pay for the ally's shipment, they're not giving spice to them to pay. They're not able to share their wealth like the Emperor can. Spacing Guild doesn't have that advantage. They can only give the guild rates, they can pay, but if they pay for that shipment, it goes to the spice bank. And if the ally helps the guild make a shipping payment, and for shame if that ever happens, but it does, that goes to the spice bank. So the guild's payment goes to the spice bank, and any spice that the guild pays on behalf of their ally, that goes to the spice bank as well. They don't go, hey, I'm paying your 4, and it goes right back to me. It doesn't work that way. So just want to make sure everyone is 100% clear on how those two things work. If you have other questions, be sure to ask us. Let me know if you've been playing it differently and how and what you think of it. And did you think it was crazy and it was a great way to beat the man, even though the Emperor is the man? So I'm not sure who he's beaten. He's beaten the little people, and he was doing that anyway. But yeah, share your thoughts, your comments, your questions, and thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.